Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to watch El Camino Pride Week's Allies and Family Members panel. I'm Pierce Peck. I'm the member of the Gender and Sexuality Alliance here at El Camino. Be the moderator for this panel. Without further ado, let the panel members introduce themselves. Tori, do you want to go first?
I can go first, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tori, legal name Salvatore. I am an instructor at El Camino College. I'm in the English department. This is my second semester at El Camino. I look forward to chatting with you guys today.
Oh, am I next?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, I'm Chelsea. I actually used to go to El Camino, so kind of started me on my academic journey. No big deal. I graduated from Cal Arts with an MFA in critical studies, specifically creative writing, and then I got my BA in art history at UC Riverside, and I feel like this would be a really cool, really important panel to be a part of. So, yeah.
All right.
Hey everyone, my name is Giancarlo Fernandez. I'm a second-year political science major. Currently, I'm vice president for the student government at El Camino College, but I also serve as director of equity, diversity, and inclusion for the Interclub Council. I'm really glad to be here today.
All right. Good to have you. Grace, do you want to go next?
I'm Grace. I go to San Pedro High School, and I'm Tori's little sister.
My sister.
I guess I could go next. Hi, I'm AJ. I graduated last year at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I got a BA in English literature, and I'm here to support Tori and to meet new people and to talk about queer stuff. And I'm just happy to be a part of this and happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
All right.
Cool. Who's next?
And Christine.
Oh, Christine muted. Yeah, really quick. This really was a mad scramble. I was just playing Final Fantasy. So
I was binging YouTube.
Okay, now I'm no longer muted. Hi,
Yay.
I was talking. Why are these
Hi.
people talking over me? Okay, hi. My name is Christine, and I am a lecturer at CSUDH and at Cerritos College. Tori put out the call for people who were allies, who had friends and family, and I answered the call. So I'm looking at the questions, formulating some answers, and have been involved for about 10 minutes now. So if I need to gather my thoughts for a minute, that's why, but I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah. All right. I will move on to the question. So question number one. What does being an ally mean to you? Or if you're not an ally, what do you think an ally is? So Tori?
Sure, yeah. So I think a strong ally is someone who is always willing to be on the front lines with queer people, to always help support when they can, however they can, no matter how big or small. It's that person who, they might not understand the queer struggle, but they're always there to lend a shoulder, to lend a hand, and to assist in any way they can with anything queer.
Good answer.
Thank you.
John?
Oh, sorry.
Or Chelsea?
Oh, okay. Okay. All I was gonna add to was, for me, a good ally listens, like zip it, listen, because I feel like it's a problem of there's a problem of like talking over of allies talking over queer people or LGBTQ, yeah, like that. Um, and I feel like it's kind of like put your money where your mouth is, sort of thing. And I feel like true allyship is about listening and taking in information and including like any kind of like any kind of like soft criticism, like, hey, I don't really appreciate, or I don't really appreciate that comment, or I don't, like um like you could have, I mean, you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm like barely like half awake, but yeah, a good ally for me is someone that is careful and listens very well and listens um, to a queer person's struggle, even if, and just making sure that they don't know how it feels, but they understand and they have empathy for it.
All right. John, you want to go
I
next?
can go. Yeah, adding on to what Chelsea said, it was really great. I think that it's really what I think an ally is means to me is to visibly stand in solidarity. It's to also use your actions over your words, not just saying like I'm an ally. Because one of the most important things is not to consider yourself an ally, but show that you're an ally, and that can be done by listening, being another person for a queer person to confide in, to share, knowing that you don't always have the uh, solutions all the time, but that you're there and you're willing to support them. And yeah, that's what I think.
All right.
I have one thing to add to what Chelsea and Giancarlo said, both really centered on that empathy versus sympathy, and that being there and listening. I think that there's a necessary component of just being normal, that it's not hearing something and reacting like, oh my God, that's so weird, or it's just normal. It's like, okay, these are your experiences and they're valid and they're not good or bad. They're just the experiences that you're sharing with me, and that's a normal experience in a very abnormal world, and that there's not anything else attached to that you're going to get an even response, whether it's telling me it's raining outside or that you're going to come out to your parents. It's like, okay, so how'd that go for you? Did you take, an umbrella out in the rain, or, it's just, there needs to be an element of normalcy that's brought to the table.
Should I go?
Yeah, Gracie, go.
But being an ally to me means is being there for and being able to stand up for people when because since I'm in high school, you see a lot of people be mean to people for literally doing nothing, and it's like, for what? They do nothing. So I always just make sure to stand up for my friends that are LGBT, or because it's not fair. I don't think it's fair, so I always just try to stand up for them, stuff like that, and help them when they're in situations. So yeah.
I guess for me, since I mean, it's different between family and then school friends, because a lot of my friends, we are queer, so we kind of just already support each other. We're already allies, and I learned how to be ally through them since I'm kind of a baby. So for me, being an ally is since we're all under the queer umbrella, my experience is not the same as theirs, and they're like living in a different world than me. So if I don't understand something, I would like politely and respectfully ask them like, hey, like how is that for you? Or I used to ask questions to get a better understanding, just in case, because I will probably encounter other people similar to them, and I have a better understanding when approaching those people, as if I want them to have a better understanding with me as well. So like that's like the friends aspect, because that's kind of how we all live. But like family aspect, as far as I know, I'm the only queer person in my family. Everyone's like heterosexual and like cis and all that. So nothing wrong with that. But like when I growing up, we didn't have talks about like LGBT or anything. Like I only knew those terms and what that was through media, and they weren't really good media. So like I live with my aunt, and then she tries her hardest to be an ally. She's very old school, so some of her like thoughts is like out there, and I'm just like, please don't do that in public, because she has like this thing about assumptions. Like if someone's dressed a certain way, she assumes something about them, and I'm trying to say, hey, please don't do that, because that's not like the case majority of the time. So she'd be like, oh, look at that person. Do you think they're transgender too? And I'm just like, I'm not sure, and it's none of my business. And she's like, go talk to them. I'm like, we're in Walmart, and they're just trying to do their shopping. Just leave them alone. But I tried to educate her, so like, just please don't do that. And then she asked me questions, and we just have like a whole like discourse about it. And so slowly, after like it's been like a few years, she's gotten way better. She and I appreciate that, because she still loves me and everything. She hasn't like thrown me out or anything. I appreciate the fact that she asks questions and she does listen to my answers, and yeah.
All right. Good answers there. Just moving on to the next question. This is for allies. In what ways do you help LGBTQIA plus community?
I'll go. Yeah, so as a heterosexual male myself, I think I have the unique, not the unique, but what I do myself is when I speak to my friends that are also heterosexual, um, I really talk to them about the importance of being um, supportive towards people, queer people, because we're all the same. We all are human. We all have the same goals in life. We all want to love each other and all that stuff. So I think it's one of my priorities too, is to not only support the LGBTQIA plus community, but also to speak to those that not yet do, and to encourage them to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really important question, and I think that there's many aspects to how you can be an ally and what does that look like, and it depends upon where you are at and what your power structure is and where you are located in that power structure. It's as simple as the first day of class, when I'm making sure all the right enrolled students are in the right seats, permission numbers, all of that circus on the first day. If somebody has a name on the form and that's not what their name is that they want to be called, okay, what do you want me to call you? That's what I'll call you. I can't change the role, but I can certainly honor your wish to be called something different. It's no different to me than if somebody called me Chris to Christine. It's okay. If there's a preferred name or a preferred pronoun, okay, that's what I'll call you. Again, that normalcy and not making an issue out of it, and setting that standard as the educator up in front of the room, that this room isn't going to get weird about it. If you want to be called they and not he or she, then we'll call you they. And that's just how we move forward. That's one aspect of it. For the personal aspect, being around people, being around different groups, and I think that it's easy to be an ally when you are in a very strong, supportive institution such as the classroom. But when you're outside of that and you hear people saying things or doing things, do you say something about it, or do you just move on and go, oh, I don't want to have this conversation today? You know, and what is it that you are doing when no one else is watching to bring awareness to, hey, you know, that's not really cool. And those are the moments that I think matter more than that public display of, oh, look how great I am. Yeah, you know, I think that that is what we need more of versus the grandstanding. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, to piggyback off Christine, I like as a queer person, I wish I had those instructors growing up that created that safe space for me, right? That was like, it's okay to be different, and like we will support you and protect you. And I think that's so wonderful that you're doing that within your class as an ally. Like we thank you so much for that, because it really means a lot.
Just to kind of go off of a thing that Christine said, um, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't equate um, someone preferring a different name to their birth certificate name or their dead name and everything. I wouldn't really equate that with, you know, using a nickname for a straight cisgender person, because I feel like the connotations um, between queer lives and the queer experience are things that are like deserve consideration. You know, not just like I understand the normalcy of it, um, you know, but I feel like the normalizing should be, you know, normalizing queer lives and the queer experience, so that, which for me requires a lot of, you know, systemic changes, you know, like making just like just taking consideration to parts of the experience that aren't shared with straight cisgender people. Like, you know, like there's still an issue with um with uh with bathrooms, and there's still issues with you know, like having an official name, and, you know, and wanting to go with a name that isn't the same is at odds with their appearance, or how they used to identify. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's just something that I think is really important in allyship.
All right. Yeah. Does anyone have anything else to say on that? All right, then we'll move on. Um, so I guess, in what ways would you sort of like allies to help the LGBTQIA plus community? And this is for everybody.
I definitely, sorry, I don't know if anybody was going to say anything, but I definitely think that um, in the community and within allyship, definitely, there should be more of an effort um, to combat racism and gender when it comes to these things, like the intersectionality of queer politics, you know, as it goes, and definitely even within the community, with the whole, transgender versus cisgender, and like the like just not so much the labels, but also just kind of like um, queer people stereotyping each other in a way that's really unnecessary, and kind of breaks up the community in that kind of way. So I guess the best way to confront that would be just with the communication and the listening. So yeah.
Yeah, so I have one that's a little more kind of media focused. I would love to see, I do a lot of media studies in the classroom. I would really love to see from allies pushes for more queer representation in film, television, just exposure, right? I feel like oftentimes, not always, right? Because I mean, we definitely have allies that are working their hardest. But I feel like a lot of the time, if we want something queer, it has to be queer made. And we don't usually or typically see it in the greater mainstream, if you will. And I would love to see that at some point in our history.
Yes, I would like to follow up with what Tori is saying.
Yeah.
That was my point too, is that I would like to see more representation as well, but like done right. So like if you can't find a queer person to write it, and you're a cis person or hetero person writing it, which is fine, just like do your research and talk to people about, like, say if you want to write on like a trans person, talk to trans people, talk about and ask about their experiences and what they deal with life and their lifestyles. Because sometimes if you don't do that, you get like the stereotypical like queer narrative that does not fit everyone, because everyone has their own experience with being queer. So I'm not saying like and sometimes it just doesn't fit for everyone. So like sometimes it's not enough to say, hey, that person's queer, but so I should relate to them. It's like saying, oh, that person's black, I should relate to him. Like there's so many different black experiences, so you should have a wide range of different black characters. So that's just my thing. So if you're writing like queer representation, I would say like do your research, talk to people, and yeah.
So it's always a fantastic opportunity to be part of dialogues and be able to hear the stories of people that come from underserved communities, and being able to hear their stories, because I myself as a participant learned so much from these dialogues, and I know those tuning in will learn a lot too. But adding on to what Tori and AJ were saying about representation, recently I was just appointed as president for student government of El Camino College, and one of my main goals this year is to have more representation within student government. So one of my goals too is to have any LGBTQIA plus person of color that is looking at this, please apply. We would love more representation, because there needs to be more people hearing these stories, need to have different perspectives. And that's one of my ways of how to help the LGBTQIA plus communities, allow them opportunities to develop professionalism and leadership skills, but feeling included and wanted for them to be in those positions. So.
Grace, do you have anything to say about this?
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
How would you like to help the queer community, Gracie?
I would like, yeah, probably more representation. I can agree with that, because there's not enough of it like out there, and we need a lot more of it for obvious reasons, because we love that. So yeah.
So you're a lot closer to high school, obviously, because you're in high school than the rest of us. What has your experience been like seeing queer representation and community within high school in 2020, 2019?
At Pedro, we have a LGBT plus like straight gay queer alliance club, and it's ran by Crowley, which I think is really good to have. But I wish they would have like more stuff for them than the other clubs, because I feel like they like pick more things, like they give them other clubs more like money and stuff like that over that club, which but that club also does a lot of stuff, like they'll have like club booth day and they'll have like pins and stuff, which I think is really cool. And they did like a walk thing like throughout the school with like jeans. It was really cool. I liked it.
What were the jeans? What did they do?
Huh?
What were the jeans? What did they do?
They raised money for something. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I just remember they did that. It was really cool.
Crazy.
Thank you.
I remember when I went to San Pedro, it was called the Gay Straight Alliance.
Yes.
And it was literally just one classroom and just hanging out.
Yes. It's in Mr. Crowley's room.
I feel like
just to add a different perspective here, even listening to these experiences and hearing, because I don't have my picture up and you don't all know me, I'm probably older than any two of you put together at this point, possibly even three. And thinking back to my experiences in high school, the entire issue was maybe a whisper in the back, or maybe that one person that everybody was like, oh, did you hear, did you know? And it just, there was no outside conversation. Out of high school, I became a hairdresser and became much more involved in different communities. And it was still very fringe to what was socially acceptable, to what was not. And hearing that there's even a club on a high school campus now is light years away from my high school experience. So I don't know if the time where you guys are my age on a call like this, talking about things, you know, what those changes are going to be like. And, you know, the refrain of Dr. King of being told to wait and being patient and not being able to wait anymore, and just what those daily steps look like. Sometimes looking back in a lifetime, long or short, and seeing what has changed, it's those small little steps, it's those big giant steps that you get pushed back on, that you move that line a little bit farther, that create a call like this within a lifetime, where this would not have been imaginable when I was in high school.
Absolutely.
Let alone the whole internet thing.
Beautifully said, Christine.
I think I'm like the second youngest here. It's like I went to 4 high schools and none of my high schools had any like queer club or anything, nor did we talk about this stuff. Like I remember in my first high school, I was in AP World History and we were just, you know, goofing off in class, and a group of us were in a corner talking about like gay rights and like gay people. I don't remember what we were saying though. This is before I even questioned my sexuality or gender or anything, because I wasn't exposed to that. So my best friend at the time, he was quiet the whole time, and then he randomly whispered in my ear that he was gay, and I was like, holy shit, what? And like, and then during that time, my idea of like what a gay person was is like, you know, stereotypical flamboyant like boy, right? And he wasn't that. So like him telling me that like opened my eyes. I'm like, oh my god, you could like, you don't have to be that to like show that like that you being that doesn't mean you're gay. And you could, you know, being gay like, or being anything is like, it's not really like a set of characteristics that you have. And so I'm glad he told me that. Well, for one thing, I felt like felt honored that he felt comfortable to tell me that. But I'm glad he told me that during that time, because it made me rethink everything I knew. And I kind of wish we had a club like that. And I'm glad high schools and colleges now have clubs like that, so you can have those like discussions and break all those like assumptions you have towards people in those communities. Because if he didn't tell me that, I probably would have thought that way until I got to college, and that was like another 5 years. So I'm glad he told me that.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm hearing with just with this conversation about clubs and high schools and stuff, and I really do think that the the idea of having a gay straight alliance, you know, having these kind of queer clubs and stuff, I feel like just the building of those should be norm should be normalized, because there's so many schools, like you said, there's so many schools that just don't have anything like that, and then the schools that do, it really is like queer kids coming together and starting it on their own, like not being supported by the school, just kind of like pulled together with each other and not actually being official and everything. So I feel like a really good step forward, when it comes to things like that, is just schools schools kind of opening that without having to be prompted. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
having a LGBT club, you know, and a room and you know, a dedicated room and activities and funding and all those sorts of things, without having to be, you know, without having to be prompted, and without, you know, just having that there. You know, if you build it, they will come, like that sort of thing, you know.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
All right. Um, guess we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah.
Um, so what do each of you think is an important issue that's currently facing the LGBTQIA plus community?
I have a lot to say on this,
I'll
but I will
pop
keep
Tori.
it.
Yeah.
I will keep it brief. But I do think it'll be a fantastic talking point for everybody. There's currently a very bad movement happening right now called LGB Drop the T, which is queer people
Wait, what?
trying to, yeah, it's queer people trying to remove trans people from the community, which I'm so violently against. And
I need
there's this
some batteries
movement
for these claws.
right, like there's this
I didn't
movement
even
that's,
hear about this. I didn't know
yeah,
about
there's
this.
this movement that's actually like they're pushing for, and it's called LGB Drop the T, but we don't like that. Um, but I feel like that's a very pressing issue right now in the community, that we need both a united front with allies and queer people to help like combat like this injustice, this in-house injustice even that's happening.
Yeah, the calls are coming from inside the house,
I'm
pretty
like,
much.
why drop the T? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
exactly. It's like,
I know they have like sometimes problem with B's because you know bisexually think that like you need to be like one or the other. But,
Right,
like
air
I
quote
didn't,
yeah.
doesn't exist.
yeah, which is stupid. But I didn't hear drop the T. I'm like I need to look into
Yeah,
that now.
that's the one circling around right now. It's basically what it is, and how it's forming is um it's transphobia. The queer community is unfortunately, there are scenes of the queer community that are just rampant with transphobia, but very heavily so in the drag communities. Um, and I know our keynote speaker might possibly talk about that on Tuesday.
Mm.
I didn't mean to steamroll everything. I'm sorry.
No, but you got me thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk more about this. What do you guys think, guys and girls? What do you think are some of the some solutions to this problem? What do you think I'll do to have?
I think right now we're failing to realize why we're together in the first place. I don't mean me here. I mean we as the community. Is
Mhm.
that we're all different, but we all we're like you know queer's umbrella term, so we're all under it. And like, I think we're kind of forgetting that we should be allies to each other first and foremost because we're the only ones close enough to understand each other at the beginning before we even think about like expanding to like our allies. But like seeing like the internal like fight is really weird in my opinion. I don't see the I don't really don't see the point why, but
It hurts.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like I'm not welcome, but give me like what's the reason though?
Mhm.
But I don't know. Like I'll come back to this.
That whole thing just reminded me of an interview with Miss Major, um, who was, part of the Stonewall riots and, knew Marsha P. Johnson personally. And she was interviewed like very recently, and she was like, I think the tea should go first. and and I really appreciated it because it was just this whole thing where it's like, Marsha was getting beat up and like having to do with all of this, and then she threw that brick and was like, it's on now. So, that's a whole thing. So I don't know why anybody would want to drop it. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, so for those watching in, Gracie and I both have a brother, obviously we're siblings, who is transgender. His name's Elijah, and we love him very, very dearly. Gracie, what do you think about this kind of dropping the T thing when thinking about, Elijah's place in
I'm against that because, like, I don't like. How could you be against someone who's a part of your own community?
Yeah.
That's just completely like not okay. Like, we need to support everyone and what their decisions are, especially Elijah, who's someone so young, who's this like same age as me in high school. Like, it's very hard to do that when you have so many people like at school saying stuff to you. And I know his whole experience has been a lot harder than my high school experience, but like when he's told me that people have like said stuff to him, I'm like, what is their number? Where they at?
Same, I know.
Because I'm gonna go get them. It's very upsetting to me because it's like, I don't understand why you could hate on someone for just wanting to be themselves.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Well said, Gracie.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So like we have like every alphabet in our acronym. So like is the A for ally or asexual?
To my understanding, it's for asexual representation. I think, however, though, because I know oftentimes the Q will be interchangeable with queer and questioning, so that could very well be a possibility. I mean, I am not the authority on what is allowed.
I don't know either.
But if
I
I
was just
were, I'd
curious.
allow it.
Yeah, because I thought ally was in there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Well,
like if you
P flag is a huge one, which is parents and friends of it's parents and friends of gay, lesbians and gay. Yeah, but which is name-wise restricted, but they're open to so much more than what the name suggests because they were founded many, many, many years ago. But yeah, I absolutely think that allies should be allowed to represent and
yeah, why not?
yeah, I'm actually, that reminds me of so San Pedro, where Gracie and I are from, did a queer pride event. It was Pride of the Port, Port of Los Angeles. It was super great. And I went, and what was so amazing to me when I went was there weren't even like, so they had a whole bunch of booths and people donating money and supporting, and not one of those booths, over half of the people there were not queer. They were allies. And it was so nice to have that feeling of just being overwhelmed and surrounded by allies.
Aww.
Like, just like, it was so nice. It was like people like, we're not queer, but we're here to support. Like, it was great. Like, one of our favorite pizza places was donating to homeless queer youth. Every pizza they sold, they were donating to that to give homeless queer youth food, home, the whole shebang. It was just such a nice, like, thing to experience, that kind of connection with allies.
Was that Nino's?
It was Big Nick's.
Oh, okay.
I have one thing to say. Like since I am in the trans community, and I have I do know that within the trans community itself, there's a whole lot of divide and fighting within itself, because like pretty much is what the big thing is, like what validates you as trans. So like that's a whole argument. So I'm pretty sure that argument kind of bleeds into the rest of the community. It's like, well, if you don't know what you are, why should you be with us since we know what we are? But like in the trans community, there's like, you know, there's like transgender versus like transgenders. Like, are you being trans because it's like trendy or whatnot, like, or like you're not attempting to pass, therefore you're not trans enough, or you know, there's like the trans medicalists who believe that you need to have gender dysphoria to be considered trans, and then there's people who say you don't need it to be considered trans. So like there's a divide there, and then just watching it all go down, you're just sitting there like, am I supposed to pick a side, or do I leave it be, or just...
I think you're raising a very valid point when it comes to allies and ally awareness, right? That when people identify as something, right, that can be at any point that individual decides is their transition point, right? There are people that will identify as trans, but they don't want to go through surgery or even hormones. But they are identifying the way they're identifying, right? That is something because I know the terminology can get tricky sometimes if you're not of the community. And I think that realizing that, understanding that, and asking, and very importantly, asking questions for things you don't understand. Like, people are more than happy to like tell you things, right? I think that there is a lot of anxiety around asking people questions.
Yeah.
But oftentimes questions are how we illuminate and dispel myths. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
Like, I have no idea how my family feels about this, because they don't ask me anything. They're just like, oh, you are who you are. There's nothing to talk about. So sometimes I do wish, it's probably stupid to wish this, but I do wish they do talk to me about it, because I don't know, like, I know they don't hate me for sure or anything, but like, I do like to see what they, you know, they really think or something, or if they have a question. Like, I am open to answering anything, but you know, we don't have those type of discussions. Just like, you are who you are. We're good. We still love you.
I'd like to go back to the point that AJ brought up, that Tori was talking about, and I think this is really key, that there is a lot of divisiveness within that creates confusion of terms, create confusion of what exactly is, am I using old terminology? Do I know enough to be able to be an ally, to listen to this? Which side am I supporting today? Did I have to make a choice? And I think there is some of that confusion that people feel. And I think the safe area is to back off and support the individual. You know, AJ, maybe people aren't comfortable having hard conversations that have nothing to do with you or anybody else. It's they're not comfortable having a hard conversation in their own head. So they deflect to the, I love you, I know who you are you, I'm here for you, and that's what I'm capable of right now. So I think that conflict also shows up in areas of anxiety of how do we best support.
Absolutely, very well put, thank you.
Yes, I have to agree. And part of this is for me to, like, as you say, like, maybe they're not in the right headspace to do it yet. And I have to remember that it's a whole process for not only me, for them too. So I have to take into consideration like where they're at and what they're comfortable with. And, you know, I'm fine with it, with everything. You know, we all just love each other. So like,
yeah, and what I'm loving about this panel so far is that I feel like we're both really learning a lot about each other, right? Because I feel like Christine's point was really eye-opening for me right now, actually. I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Because I was more focused on it being a me thing and not like a, oh, like this isn't other people's normal. And that creates anxiety. Very well, but it was very eye-opening.
This is fun.
It is pretty fun. What's our next question, Pierce?
Well, does anyone else have anything to add?
No.
I would definitely say, you know what, never mind.
Are you sure about that?
I'm sure.
I just have a few words, whips out scroll.
I know. Like the one where it's like, do I have any thoughts on queer issues? Thought number 1. And it's like a whole TED, like a whole TED talk.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
All right. Well, does anyone else have any issues they'd like to bring up about the LGBTQIA plus community?
Oh, okay. So I would definitely, I know I've probably said this before, but definitely dealing with racism and, you know, sexism
Classism.
in the community.
Mm.
You know, just with you know, just intersectionality, like understanding that, you know, both within the community and outside of it, and just keeping 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 tabs on, you know, on uh, queer women, or women identifying queer people. So like, you know, like lesbians, and, you know, women who love women just in general, and you know, and trans women and everything. Just kind of keeping those things in mind too, because, you know, that's, and when it comes to like Black trans women, you know, like it's hard out here. Like it's hard, you know, just kind of just existing out in the world, you know, and trying to do your own thing, and just being, you know, just being you know, like targeted, you know, and you know, and just going into, you know, like just racism in general, just between, like, you know, in the community, outside the community, and everything, and just kind of like, you know, just gender, race, it's a lot.
Yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head there, Chelsea, because I'm reminded of when Caitlyn Jenner came out, and she had her reality show very briefly, and she was talking about struggles of being trans, and to a room full of trans women of color, and they were like, no, like, we understand that it was hard for you, yes, and we intersect there, but they were like, you cannot tell, but you have money. Like, was
Yeah,
the
you're
like,
rich.
yeah, they were like, you have money, you can afford these things. Like, we've had to do some not so great things to get estrogen, to get surgery, to get whatever they felt they needed. And I remember that was, I remember Caitlyn Jenner's eyes kind of went big and was like, oh, because there was a disconnect between class and being queer even, right? Because there's, class plays a huge role in services available and
Yeah.
everything, yeah.
Is anyone anything else to add to that? No?
No, not really.
All right. Well, that's actually all the questions. But does anyone want to give some final words before we wrap up?
I have one thing, and if this is going way, way back to, you know, when we're talking about media representation and stuff, something that I realized that, like, you know, all of the characters that I've, like, connected with or considered like queer and everything, that was like, I think it's sad that those characters, it's all subtext, and I'm sure you know that I'm talking about a certain ice princess, queen, whatever.
Girl, let it go.
The
Yeah.
essays I have received in text message from Chelsea about this.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. Let her be a forest lesbian with her forest wife and their uh antlered children. What?
Yeah, no, I think final words, right? I think that being an ally really means, from the queer side, being an ally really means so much to us because there are times in the coming out process when you are low, and when you're low, you're low. And it's that person, that ally that you find that loves you all the same no matter what, and helps you through it. Just really make, in the queer community, oftentimes that's the difference between life and death. It really truly is.
Yeah.
And I mean, we just thank all of the allies from the bottom of our hearts, because we really, like, similar to, like, that saying where it takes a village to raise a child, right? It also takes a village to, like, come out. It really, you need a support system, and oftentimes that is in our allies, right? I had phenomenal ally friends growing up that to this day are still wonderful allies. My mom was P-flagging before I even was close to coming out. Like, she was like marching and throwing bricks, like, but it, like, it really helps, right? When you know that you're going to be loved all the same, no matter what. Like, I know for Gracie, I'm 12 years older than you, Gracie. That was the normal for Gracie, right? She was just
like
that's
Tori
what's
taught me how
normal.
to walk in heels.
I love that.
I did. I also took Gracie to her first gay bar when she was like 12.
Yeah, yes, and it was iconic.
They looked
And
at me
we
like I was
watched
the worst
Drag
sibling
Race
in the
when I
world.
would come home from school.
Dude.
But yeah, it's the allies. It really is. And I think that, the proof is really in the pudding today. I put out a queer SOS to all of my friends, all of my allies, to come to this panel. And immediately Christine and Gracie were like, yes. And of course, AJ and Chelsea were more than happy to represent. And we thank you so much. The ECC family really thanks you. Those are my final words. I promise.
I think for me, my final words are like, we should have more of this, like more of these talks, because like in like this type of space where everyone can be open and ask questions and talk about experiences, whether they be queer or ally. I think this is really needed, like more of. And like for me, like there's no talk like this in my family. So when I was coming out, I came out like I couldn't come out to my mom because she passed away. And I'm not close to my dad, so I didn't come out to him. So as far as I know, I don't think my dad knows. But so I did, like my aunt, she was like, oh, I knew that. I was like, cool. So but like the rest of my family, I kind of was doing it one by one because I didn't know what their views were on this. So I'm just like, I don't know how to approach you. So I kind of just did one by one. And I was like, this is too much anxiety. So what I did, I just made a video and put it on Facebook and Instagram.
Beautiful.
And I was just like, I'm doing that. That's why everyone can know all at once, because there's gonna be too much anxiety to tell you all one by one. And it went well. My allies, they're like, oh my God, we're so happy for you. And I was like, thank you. My family was like, oh cool, we love you. And I'm like, thank you. And so I just think we need more spaces like this where we can just have an open discussion. So where people who are hesitant to talk about things, they know they can talk about it. And there's a safe space to like ask questions and to answer them. And thank you for letting me be here, and thank you, Tori, for inviting me.
Of course.
And it was very fun, and I look forward to doing more of this.
I guess one final words that I'd like to say is, again, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this panel. I've learned so much, and I'm looking very forward to share this video and stories today with all my friends and family. I guess one of the quotes that I really enjoy, that I really like, is actually from Daniel Radcliffe himself, and is, you don't have to be gay to be a supporter, you just have to be human. So I want everyone viewing this to remember that. And again, diversity is key.
Yeah, Dan Rad. I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yeah, that is totally true.
Tori, I'd like to say thank you for reaching out. And thank you for letting me come on without camera today on such short notice. I greatly appreciate that. Pierce, thank you for hosting the roundtable and being our moderator and keeping us on track with questions. And at the end of the day, yes, we are all human and we are here, and there's a lot of different change, and one experience might be bad, the next one might be good, and that goes for both sides. Sometimes I'm a good ally, sometimes I stub my toe. And the thing is, being human is we get up and we try again. So thank you for having this, and I'm glad to be able to support ElCo.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who showed up. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's watching right now. I think that's for the panel. If you're watching, don't forget to check out the other events that we're holding for Pride Week. If you haven't already seen them, there'll be there's a trans panel out there. There's I think an LGBT QA plus dialogue or panel, something going
with
on.
a psychologist.
There's also
Surviving
the
and Thriving.
Surviving and Thriving, and just a bunch of other stuff on the website as well.
And our keynote, Miss Barbecue themselves.
Yeah, the keynote.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You get all the events. What else do you have?
Yeah, we have an art gallery, which is, I think there's, well, I don't know, this is gonna go probably late, but yeah, there's still, as of right this second on Friday, they're still collecting art. So art, if you see this early somehow. But we do have an art walk, a queer art walk, digitally, for everybody to look at, view. There's a game, we're doing a game night. That's on Monday, right, Pierce?
Yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yep, I believe it's Monday. I think there's a movie night on another night as well.
It's the same night.
Same day. Okay, very cool. Yep.
We also have a Surviving and Thriving panel on Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.
I'm on that one as well.
All right. I think that. Thanks again to everyone for showing up and to everyone watching.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much again, everyone.
Let your flag fly.
Yeah.
Let it go or whatever.
My